So it's great to be here with you this afternoon. And I was just thinking today about just how great life is and how life is such an adventure. You know, and life was meant to be an adventure to be lived, not just something to be managed, right? We are called to be people of adventure. And I think there's no greater adventure in this world than the Christian life. Life is an adventure, but Christian life is the greatest adventure of all things. Jesus calls us to not only to walk with him, but to be part of an adventure, to be part of something bigger. That is, at the end of the day, that is what God calls us to. I mean, just think about this, right? When Jesus came to the earth as a baby, that kind of started the earthly adventure of God, right? And he started to grow. And when he got older and when he started his public ministry, the first thing he did is he went out and he started inviting people. He said, come. Why don't you come? Come and follow me. Come and see what this is all about. Little did they know that he was calling them forth onto the greatest adventure of their lives. And you know, in a lot of ways, this didn't make any sense, because Jesus was a great man of God, and he did not go out and find all the smart people. He didn't necessarily find all the charismatic people. He certainly didn't go out and try to find all the holy people. He called everyday people. He called fishermen. He called tax collectors. So the adventure is clearly not just for those who are smart or for those who are holy. The adventure is for every single one of us, right? And just imagine being those 12 when Jesus came and called them. They were probably freaking out a little bit. But something inside of them was stirring. Something inside of them said, maybe I should just follow him and find out what this is all about. Maybe I should just take that next step, right? So they did. And they start following him and they start learning from him. Last week, the gospel was the feeding of the 5,000, right? Could you imagine just thinking about yourselves being one of those disciples that was there that day? Just think about it. That each of you, you're standing there and Jesus says, hey, take these 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and I want you to go feed these 5,000 people. Now, I'm kind of freaking out, but I'm kind of excited at the same time. So he goes and they start feeding, right? And they each got this little basket full of food. And to their surprise, every time they take some food out, more food appears. What an adventure. What an adventure that they got to be witness to. That is what the Christian life is about. That's what it means to follow Christ. It is not just, it's more than just a set of beliefs. It is a way of life. It is coming into and being part of that adventure, right? And I imagine after they saw all that, after they experienced this food that never ends, that they probably just wanted to stay there. But Jesus says, no, you got to go. Get in the boat and go ahead of me. I'll come after you later. And they get out there in the boat, right? They get out there in the boat, and they're kind of like, we just left him. I wanted to stay back there, but he sent me to go out. And he gets a little rough. The seas start to get a little rough. And they remember, I mean, I can't imagine they're afraid, even though they were fishermen. But yet they were afraid, right? And they reach out, and Jesus comes walking to them on the water. Jesus comes walking to them. And he the same thing. Come to me. Trust, right? Because it's easy for us, right, as we start to walk this Christian life, as we're in the middle of this adventure, called Christianity, and it's easy for us to get anxious. It's easy for us to have fear and to say, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just kind of stand back. And yet Jesus keeps saying, no, just come to me. Keep your eyes on me. Father John used to always say, all right, come on, guys, eyes locked and loaded, right? Eyes locked and loaded. Keep your eyes on me. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Because if we do that, he will always be there to pull us in. He will never forsake us. He's going to let us have the adventure. There's always going to be some unknowns. Because, you know, I want God to give me the whole plan. I'm like, just tell me what your whole plan is for me, when things are going to happen, how they're going to happen, and I'll follow you. But that's not what he says. He just says, come and follow me. Trust me. Trust me enough to get out of the boat. Trust me enough to walk to me on the water. But don't take your eyes off of me, right? That's what it's about. That's what it means to live this adventure called Christianity. To be a Catholic is to about allowing yourselves to follow Jesus, to keep your eyes on him, to let him have all the fears and all the anxieties. But you gotta step out of the boat, right? God has something in mind for every single one of us in our lives. It's easy in our lives to say, oh, we'll just kind of sit here. But no, but God called us for more. God called us for adventure. Everybody in here, whether you're young or old, whether you're smart or not smart, it doesn't matter. You may be an important business person. You may, just have you may work over at Taco Bell or wherever. I mean, whatever it is, right? Not dissing on Taco Bell. Hey, it's hard to beat the $5 box, I'm just saying. But no matter what our state in life is, God has something for every single one of us. This past Thursday, we got to baptize and confirm an 89-year-old man. 89 years old. Yes. Something was stirring in that man. Something, after 50 years of being married to his Catholic wife, stirred in him. And he came and said, Father John, I want to be Catholic. You can keep clapping. It's all right. That's my grandson. It's all right. He can keep clapping. But there's something beautiful in that, And I told him, he was here at the early Mass, and I said, you realize ministry starts now and you got to get to work. And he looked at me. I'm like, yeah, I don't care how old you are. Neither does God. God has something for every single one of us. And so we have our ministry fair this weekend, right? We have our ministry fair that just so you can go and see different ways that God might be calling you to come and to serve him. It's a way for all of you to experience the adventure. And let me tell you something. We had a meeting the other day with all the Eucharistic ministers and all the lectors. It was over 100 people. I had no idea it was that many because I only see like 2 of them at a time. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of people. And I asked everybody in the room, I said, were you born as a lector? Did you come out of your mother's womb as a lector? And they're like, no. I said, so you had a first time for this? Yeah. Everybody who gets up here and serves, all of these altar servers, even Father Don had, at one point he had his very first Mass. And he was probably a little bit afraid. Were you a little bit afraid? Yeah, right? We all get nervous. We all think we're not good enough. We're not smart enough. But God says, no, just keep your eyes on me. Keep your eyes on me. Enter into the adventure. And I promise you that it will be greater than anything you've ever thought of in your life. And let me I'll tell you a little bit about how some of this played out in my life, right? So at one point in my life, you guys have probably heard some of this story. I wanted nothing to do with God. But God kept calling. He said, come on, Robert. Come on out of the boat. And I ignored him for a very long time. And at some point, he was like, just come and see. And I remember my first time stepping foot into a church, and I was kind of freaked out. Honestly, it was kind of freaky because I'm like, what's going on here? But yet, I said, let me see what this is about. Let me not be afraid and come once. And then I came again. And then I came again. And slowly over time, I started to get what was going on. All the sitting, standing, kneeling, all the different things. And it started to make sense. It started to make sense, right? So that was probably my first moment of great fear with God, was just stepping foot inside of a church, And then later, I remember there's been a lot of things like, hey, do you want to actually become Catholic? And I was like, oh, no, I don't know about that. But yet God was patient with me, and I said, okay, I'll come one time and see what it's about. And I kept coming one more time and one more time. And eventually I became Catholic at the Easter of 1989, And then God keeps calling, right? He called me into ministry. He called me to the Knights of Columbus. He called me to serve on the altar. He called me to get up and sing. What's wrong? Where did that come from? I am not much of a singer. He even said, I want you to learn the guitar so you can play the guitar at Mass. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, okay. The first time I got up there and played, I was sweating bullets, because the music used to be right over here on this side, and everybody could watch you. And I thought, oh my God, people are going to see me. I'm going to and I hit a bad chord, and I thought that was it. Anyway, but the thing is that I just kept coming, right? God just says, just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. You know, and then as things progressed, there was one time I know God was calling me. He said, why don't you try hospice? And I thought, oh, I don't know about hospice. I don't like people who are dying. I really don't like sick people. I can't do that. That's more than I can do. But God said, come on, get out of the boat. I have an adventure for you. And I kid you not, my very first person, usually they send people out with somebody else to train them when they go visit for hospice. No, they sent me out by myself on my very first visit. And so I get over to the nursing home to see this man his name was Cutter. Now, Cutter was the road manager for Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yep, he weighed about 400 pounds. He had diabetes. He had one of his legs was amputated. And he cussed like a sailor. And I'm like, God, what am I doing here? I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. But you know what? I thought, okay, God, walk with me. So I was thinking, God, help me. You know what? It became to be one of my greatest joys was to walk with people who are dying, to be part of that hospice ministry, to visit sick people. I get called all the time now to go visit people in the hospital who are dying. I kind of enjoy it. It's a chance to enter into their lives. I never would have known that God was going to open up that adventure to me if I hadn't said yes one time. If I hadn't agreed to get out of the boat that one time. And so I think that's what it's about, right? That's what it's about. God is calling every single one in this room to step out of the boat and to try something. We have a lot of very beautiful ministries here at the church. And after Mass, head over to the hall. Talk to the people about the various ministries and see what God might be calling you to get out of the boat. Okay? Just give them a chance because there is a great adventure. God has such a great plan for you. And there's no way, I look back over my life, and there's no way that I could have planned any of this. But God has continually said, come, and I take one step. And he says, come some more, and I take another step. And he's opened up this beautiful life, this beautiful ministry. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That's what it's about, because Jesus wants us all to be part of his plan. He wants all of us to be part of this great adventure called Christianity.